Hello, fellow songwriters, and welcome to the 12th episode of the How Songs Are Made podcast, where we talk to notable artists about their songwriting process. I'm your host, Trey Xavier, and today we're going to be talking to the band Monument about their forthcoming fourth album, In Stasis. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by my 7-day Riff to Song Challenge, which is a free mini course where I show you how to turn one riff into one song in 1 week. To take the challenge, hit the link in the description and follow the instructions, and in just a week, you will have a completed song. So now, please welcome my esteemed guests, Andy and Brown of the band Monuments.
Yo, what is up? How is it going, Trey? Thanks for having us.
Hi, thanks for coming, guys.
Very cool.
Very
Good
excited
to
to have you on.
I'd like to see what the songs sound like after 7 days.
Yes. The main thing about it is that they're done, is that they exist. The whole thing is to get people, guitarists who I'm sure you're aware of, tend to be riff hoarders, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
this guy
hundreds of riffs, 0 songs.
Right. Yeah.
So if you want to learn how to make riffs, I know a place. It's called Learn Master of Puppets. No, it's
called
John's
Strum Slow
Slow University. That sounds like a real English college somewhere. Did you go to Strum Slow?
You take your time with it.
Also, there's other guitar players too, actually. The ones that have one riff that they work on for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
And it's still never have a song.
Yeah.
No, but for real, it's Riff Hard University, which is the other place that we've been on a podcast together, Brown.
Yeah, we have.
I still sometimes get people, literally strangers, DMing me being like, I just heard your episode of the Riff Hard podcast, man. It was awesome. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like,
Wow.
It's like 2 years
That is huge. Yeah.
later or something.
Good for you, Brown. That's awesome.
No, good for Trey. People want to listen to him talk. That's the thing.
Good for both of you.
But the whole idea with the challenge is to get people to just finish a fucking song, even if it's nothing amazing or special. It's just like just do it real simple, keep it basic. You could get fancy later. Right now, just finish one.
The practice of completing a draft, and that way you can have something tangible to refine, and it's there, and it's not just another half-finished demo that never sees the light of day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Put your
Very cool. That's great. I really like that. I think that's a good cause, because that's always a challenge. Is just getting something ready to. It's complete, you know.
Yeah, and then you kind of get the bug, and like.
Then you're addicted to finishing songs, and now you can do it.
Yeah, so you don't die with a pile of riffs, and
you teach yourself that it can be done. Yeah.
Once every 4 years.
Once every 4 years. And then, like, you're not actually making a pile of riffs and like writing them as you go. It's every 4 years panic. And then
This sounds familiar.
I can live with that. Yeah.
How do I turn these into a song? Guess I got to take Trey's challenge so we can finish the new Monuments record.
I'm gonna have to take that challenge.
Yeah.
For real though, it's coming. It's that time. It's the 4 years around, and In Stasis is coming out the day, which
15th.
is the 15th
of April. Yes.
Just over 3 weeks away.
That's right. I was like, God, please, I hope I don't get this date wrong.
The Ides of
15th.
April.
Yeah.
We've actually been hearing this date since, I think, September last year, maybe August. Yeah, we've been this record's been for a while.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that when we got the deadline, when we were like, this is when it should be done, we were all just like, oh yeah, we'll totally have it done by then. And then it got really hard to finish by the 5th. Like, we did it, but man, it was crunch time at the end for sure.
Some people, myself very much included, need the pressure of the deadline, the
what
hard
it was.
deadline
Yep.
to really get her done. And so I feel that. But you
Yeah,
did
we
it.
had a fire under our asses.
Yeah.
I think that having that deadline just means that you actually do the job. Because if you don't, it just goes on for years.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah, I need someone telling me, yelling at me to hurry up, because if I'm my own boss, I'm gonna do a bad job.
It's sort of one of the artists' quandaries, right? Like
Right,
creative
most
people,
artists, yeah.
you know, you might work well under pressure to a degree, but you know, you also need a lot of time to make a thing. You need, you know, things take time to get good, but if you just believe that more time equals better, then then it could take forever and be the best, right?
Right.
But at a certain
Yeah.
point, you gotta put it out.
It's about how much freedom you give yourself. It's like when I go to the
Also-
grocery store and buy too many snacks, and I'm like, this is gonna last me 2 weeks, and then I eat them in like 5 days.
Also, time doesn't equal good.
No.
Yeah,
That's the other thing.
yeah. We
Like,
gotta put
some-
ourselves through like a 7-day finish the song, and it was
Yeah.
11 of them or 10 of them or whatever.
Yeah. One of the songs I think we completed in 2 days.
Yeah,
We had riffs there for it.
I would say there was not. Yeah, I mean there was stuff that was there prior, but
Didn't
in
use
2
any of
days
those riffs though.
I guess not.
Just rewrote them all, you know.
Yeah.
But at least it had a beginning that it came from. You know, anyone can do it if they want. Like you say, your 7-day challenge. It's once you get your mind into it, you can actually do it pretty easily, as long as you've got the focus.
Yeah. So let's talk about basically on this podcast, there's one question, and every other question is just a follow-up of that question. And the big question is, what is your typical songwriting process? And what was it like if it was different for this album?
Stress.
Yeah. Well, Brown, why don't you kick it off and I can add to your.
So this time we actually did it a little bit differently. So for the last few, we would just like write individually and then come together to kind of finish it. And we did that for some of the songs on this record, where I would write a bunch of riffs, send it to everyone as like a sort of, you know, structure kind of. Mike would play around with drums, sometimes the structure, and then eventually when Andy was like, oh yeah, I can write this now. There's a verse there, there's a chorus, there's, you know, something that I can make a story out of. Then the vocals would begin. Whereas this time, Mike actually came up before the recording we jammed it in a room where we would see how the parts felt as well. So we'd go to the next level. You know, a lot of bands used to get together and just write in the rehearsal room, and we haven't done that ever, pretty much. Since the first record, we did it a little bit, but we decided to do that process again and think, how does this actually feel? Because, you know, there's a lot of notes. And
Yep.
sometimes, like, if you don't feel what it feels like, sometimes you're like, this is going to make playing live horrible. It's not going to be nice anymore. So
Yeah. So it's like
They
taking
did
it from
good
the
for
Guitar
that.
Pro stage to the play it in real life stage.
yeah, I mean, you can actually see some of that process. Mike posted a video on his YouTube where I couldn't actually play the riff yet. So we were able to like jam like that as well. Like he was in the other room, would send me all of his mics into this room, and I would jam along and he would hear me in that room, and it was like isolated, but we'd still jam together. It's cool. That's how the process went.
When he wrote it, did he like program it in advance, like, and send you like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
program
Or he would
shit?
play it on like piano. Like Mike's really good at writing drums on a piano, so a lot of times that's how he would like program his drums. It's just
But I mean, did he program the guitar part, the riff that you couldn't, that Brown couldn't?
he did.
play?
Yeah, he did.
On one song, yes. So for one song, Mike wrote the entire thing, a song called Somnus, and I actually had to change that.
Yeah,
'Cause
we
it was,
definitely we both changed that song a bit. So
yeah.
and that's the thing is like what Brown described as like the first half, and then we would sort of kick into this collaborative mode where it was like open season with the structure and some of the note choices. Like I would be like, hey, I'm hearing this part go twice, or I think we should move this part here. And we did a lot of that, a lot of restructuring for all the songs. And Brown would just have his library of riffs that he would slowly structure and turn into something tangible. And then I guess like I would get my hands on it, or Mick Gordon would get his hands on it.
Yeah.
And we would be in a Discord basically just going back and forth with ideas and cuts and versions. There was a lot of passion and push and pull to it, but with that process I think it became really refined. We were able to get them to a place where it wasn't just like, all right, here, let me poop out this track, throw some vocals on it. It was like, okay, I have this track, I think, I would do a better job if this part was like this, and they would be like, oh, okay, let's do it like that. And just slowly but surely crystallizing to be as best as it could be.
Yeah, definitely having Mick involved added ideas that wouldn't have thought of as well. Like
he was like very closely involved with like everything from its inception, basically from the songs from the ground up, and adding little diamonds here and there that would inspire us to do other things.
It's quite there's points on the album where people are like, oh, where's Mick? And he literally copied the guitars on a synth. And when it's taken out, you can really tell, because it adds this layer of disgusting to it.
Really and there's a lot of atmosphere. There's like that's like saying, where's the bass player, because he really was very foundational to a lot of these songs, and there's so much goodness in there, so much juiciness that you'd be missing without. But I guess featuring Mick Gordon, people think, oh, he's gonna rip like a solo or something, but no, he was like a producer with us, and obviously backing everything with his crazy atmospheric synth and ambient motifs that just really pulled everything together, glued it together, and also gave the whole album like a sonic theme of its own. I think he was responsible for making it extra cohesive.
Yeah.
There's points where it's more obvious, like where it sticks out a little bit more than others. And there's somewhere it's like just sort of like a subtle soundscape thing that you probably wouldn't notice unless you were paying a bit more attention to it. But it's something that enhances the experience of listening in ways that you wouldn't necessarily, they're not front and center. It's just it's experiential and subtle,
totally.
but also important, kind of like a certain ingredient, like vanilla in a cake. You don't eat a piece of cake and go like, I can really taste the vanilla. Is that real Madagascar vanilla?
Yeah.
You're just like, damn, this is a good ass cake. Fuck.
Right. You enjoy it more. You don't really know why necessarily always.
Like reverb as well, you could say. When good reverb, you don't really hear it, you feel it.
Yeah. And if it's not there, you're kind of like, okay, why isn't this?
Or you
cake
don't
that
even
great?
know. You're just subconsciously, you don't like it as much. And this is the thing, is that it's all about little tiny elements coming together, like hundreds of them. It's never one big thing that makes up something great. It's lots of tiny meticulous efforts, I think.
Yeah. So, how did Mick get involved in the first place? I remember back, let's see, at Hennings, Brown, we were talking about it a little bit. I think that was the first. I think maybe by that point you'd put something out with him on it. But how did you get him in on it in the first place?
He was so I asked him to do the album previously, which he agreed to, and then he got stolen away for Doom Eternal. Which obviously, if it was between that or Doom, I'd be jumping at Doom as well. So yeah, it ended up that he couldn't do it, and we got the amazing Paul Ortiz from Chimp Spanner to do the background layers of the third record. So I just reopened the conversation as we started writing for this record. It would be cool if we could collaborate with Mick, because he's got a very unique perspective on everything. Doesn't like he would ask us, what's this song about? What are the lyrics? What's the overall theme? And he wouldn't invase on it. Like, he wouldn't be invasive in any way. He wanted to complement what was already there and not take the limelight from it. He just wanted to enhance what we already had, which I think was very important. You know, he didn't want to take over. Albeit, it would have been great if he did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really
Yeah.
inspiring too, to see him get so excited about the music. It
Yeah.
made us excited, and that was just really good for the chemistry and the synergy of the whole process.
Yeah, he was super stoked about it. And it started as one song. So I originally asked him to do one song, which ended up being Lavos. And then I just asked him after that, do you want to do the whole record? And he was like, yeah, I'll be down.
Got that John Brown clout, and he's in.
Not at all, no.
In.
Yeah.
Whatever, he's being modest.
Yeah, but he's great. Perfect compliment. Anyway,
I think if people work well together, if you work together on one project and it works out well and everybody's happy with the result and how the workflow and the process of it went, they're for sure going to say yes to do it next time. People don't really think about how important it is to be easy to work with.
Yes.
And like, you know, there are people with like extreme skill or tons of clout or whatever, like some famous producer, but you might, you know, get in the room with Bob Rock and maybe the chemistry, personal chemistry isn't there, or he's a dick or you're a dick or whatever. And it doesn't, none of that other stuff fucking matters. Like if you have a shitty attitude, it's not going to come together. But it sounds like you guys like work together really well. And of course he would, you know, goes really well for one thing. You guys are stoked on it. Like, yeah, just parlay that into a whole album. Why not?
Yeah. That's definitely true. Like your coworkers will make or break the job that you're doing. And we just worked really well together and it was super pleasant. So naturally the stuff we were doing was, I think it came out pretty good because of that. Yeah.
Maybe you could walk us through like the whole process for one song, one like on the album that went basically just a good example of how the whole workflow went from inception of the idea to basically final product.
Which song? Do you want to say Cardinal, Andy? Because I think
that's a good one to explain. Sure.
Do it.
So yeah, Cardinal started. I actually wrote it on live stream, that song, which was, you know, so to me it was written in such a short space of time that I didn't really think it was a good song. You know, that whole time versus thing.
I'm
you know,
so angry at you for that.
Well, you know what it's like. If you've written something in 5 minutes, you're like, it can't be good because I haven't spent the time to make it good, you know?
And it was like a while ago too, so you were probably just like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
You know.
So originally I wrote a couple of the riffs and it ended up being a competition for Riff Hard, which was to win an overload guitar. So I wrote, our video guy, Adam, was in the room while I wrote it. I would literally wrote these riffs in about 15, 20 minutes as I needed to get it done to go out. So then from that, I ended up doing a live stream to finish the song, which got to a certain level. And then I passed it over to Andy and Andy was like, I really like this. I'm gonna write some vocals to it. From there, did we do any vocal changes to it?
Well, there was there was a specific chord in the chorus that I changed in order to make this vocal line work. So,
yeah, you asked me to change a chord that then spiraled into this.
Yeah.
thing.
So initially the progression was like, and I was like, we should be like, you know, give it that like, we are the dark, because I would have had to be like, we are the dark, and I didn't think that was as epic, so I was like, try this one, and I actually like went into a Odin guitar program and programmed the chord. I was like, try this chord, and we struggled with it for a bit until we found the chord, and then it was like, all right, and that's like a little Andy tweak that would happen to one of Brown's structures, or maybe I would like move a part in the song or add it. I was like, let's bring that part back here. Just little things that I thought would make the vocals more thematic and epic. And I think Mikey would do the same thing in terms of structure to keep stuff from getting stale. He was really good at knowing when the songs needed to breathe for a little break or drop out the drums and um yeah, little things like that. So with Cardinal, that's exactly what we did. And Brown, you named it Cardinal Red right before we even wrote the
Yeah.
lyrics.
Yeah. So often or not, I'll kind of have an idea on theme
Hmm.
because I can't really write music without a general purpose. Like I can't just go in and write a riff. I need to try and explain something.
Yeah, you're literally like, "What's this about?" And then you explain it through his riffs.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
helps
It's
me
the
a lot. That gives me a jumping off point.
Riff-splaining.
riff explaining. There you go.
Oh
I like that.
yeah,
That's the new
riff
word. Thank you, Trey.
splain.
Riff
That's
explain.
that's really good. Yes.
Awful. I love it.
So like yeah, with I generally have like a word or a sentence that will be like, oh, this song's kind of about this, but it will be really like brief. It won't be like a complete story. So it allows Andy to show that from his perspective when it comes lyrically, because I think that that's if you can connect it individually, then you're not forcing someone to write something maybe they're not into. So, and generally they're scenarios that kind of we've all experienced. That's kind of like the things that I write about.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. A lot of times Brown will just give me like a motif of an idea and then I can take it and run in my direction and then it's something that can be interpreted in your own way. And so Brown has his way of interpreting it and I have my way of interpreting it and yeah, I think I just do a lot better writing lyrics with someone else's jumping off point in mind as well because I've probably written like 200 songs worth of lyrics and having the mind of Brown, inspire what I'm doing is it opens up a lot of doors. So I was really grateful to have that.
Yeah, like
Throughout
writing from a
the record.
prompt.
Yeah,
Kinda.
from a Brown prompt, and also just things that I wouldn't have come up with from scratch from my own brain.
So like for example, like Makeshift Harmony, the name for it before was called Swans.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, and then I was
yeah,
like, how can I sort of that just gave me imagery, like a swan, like it's beautiful but deadly, and what else is beautiful but deadly,
yeah,
relationship wise or in your life or yeah, just little things like that. It's all I need to get going, and
that's literally what that was written about. It's about how something can be beautiful on the outside, but completely toxic on the inside, which a
yeah,
swan can be,
yeah.
So little things like that, nothing too deep, but
Hmm.
a scenario for Andy to go find.
Yeah. Or it would be like something that we all sort of struggled with. Like one of them, Somnus, is about sleep being your demon and not being able to achieve sleep, whether it be through some sort of disorder or paralysis or racing thoughts or whatever. But we all have our own reasons why we're too fucking stressed to sleep, and we take that and run with it.
Yeah, and same with Arc Essence as well. So that was
Right. That was called
Imposter.
Imposter from
Yeah.
Brown, and he was like, "This kind of is about imposter syndrome." And I was like, "Oh, buddy, I got you, I got you there." Let me get my hands on this one. Yeah, yeah.
And away you go.
And I really liked. I felt connected with the rest of the band members doing that, and I think all of those, like I said, that's like another tiny thing that helped make up the album is being able to relate to each other.
Ironically, sometimes imposter syndrome is the only thing that you feel qualified to write about.
Oh man, yeah, dude, it gets so meta. It's like, am I qualified to write about this? Qualified to write about it? Fuck.
Holy shit.
That's... And then we got Spencer Sotelo on that one to take a little pressure off of me. So
because
and
you
sometimes
were like, oh, I don't know. Let's bring in an expert. I'm not really.
Let's get someone to legitimize this operation. Yeah.
God damn it.
but sometimes it goes a little bit deeper than that as well. Sometimes I'll have like an idea before I even begin writing riffs, which then gives me the opportunity to like explore some maybe different tonal centers. So with Arc Essence, for example, a lot of that's in Mixolydian flat 6, which has this particular like wonder sound to it, especially between the 1 and 4 chords.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a beautiful
so
sound.
that ended up starting being written in that weird sort of scale, because I wanted it to sound like out of this world kind of sound, like you weren't in control for imposter syndrome. So often or not, I'll go down those little paths too sometimes.
That's cool. So you're able to consider the effect of the sound before you actually start in on it.
Yeah, it's like, do you know the latest? In fact, actually, I think there might be 2 more out now. But Jurassic World. Do you know that bit in it where it replays the theme just on a solo piano when they go into the old visitor center?
Not
like
off
that.
The dome.
Yeah,
I gotta watch it again.
that one.
All right, yeah,
I like that movie a lot, but I gotta go see it.
Really?
Again. Oh, yeah.
I hated the movie completely, but that bit where it brought me back to 1993 when they played that theme, I was like, yeah, that's the shit I love. So it's thinking about it in a film music sense, like how can I explain this situation with certain notes?
Great.
I often go to minor because obviously minor's best, but
it's home base, I think. For most.
It's home base.
Yeah, Misery and Sadness is home base.
Yeah,
unless you're in a pop punk band, or Andrew WK. But
yeah, and then it's getting out of this town.
So, what did you say?
So then it's getting out of this town.
And it's getting the fuck out of this town that you don't need, but you'll be there forever. We all know it.
Right in your heart and your genes.
So, so you've described the process up to a certain point. Now you've got like you've started creating something out of this soup, out of the sort of lyrical prompt, and you're chopping up the song. How do you take it, that last bit? How do you start finalizing the structure and dialing it into the point where you can start calling it basically finished?
I guess it's like the demo is coming together and we all have our scratch parts laid out. And once it's all right in front of us, then we can get to the nitty gritty. And like often actually with Cardinal Red, even when I send my vocals, born to raid the world of all, like that bit was just at the beginning, and they heard that and they're like, oh, that would be great at the end of the song too. So yeah, it's like we have a bird's eye view of all the elements sonically, and then it just becomes clear when you can see it all like that in front of you. And I don't know, like I think we had a good sense of knowing when something was done or it needed a little bit more, or I'm like, that's perfect, but can we get like a cool little swell thing from Mick here? Like you can just tell there's a few more gaps. It's like a crossword puzzle that's nearly finished, and you can see it's a lot more obvious which words you're missing now that many of the elements are together. At least that's how it felt for me. Finishing the songs, it was like sort of a compounding thing. It got easier and easier as it came together.
I like allowing the recording process to be open as well, to change.
Yeah, true.
So the recorded guitars, there's definitely some parts that changed, mainly probably because I forgot how to play them.
But that's part of it, baby.
Yeah, it is. And so sometimes you play something a little bit differently. It's like when I did the playthrough video for False Providence, and there's 2 ways to play the clean part in that. Couldn't remember which way I played it, so I just went with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, during the recording process as well, I will just often think, "Oh, that sounds cool."
Yep, me too. And we all did our own shit remotely by ourselves for this album. That's worth mentioning. Which obviously it has its pros and cons. The pros being we could be as comfortable as we want on our own time, tracking our own stuff. But then the cons, like we're not all in the same room, we can't actively comment. But that's what the pre-pro is for. That's why we did a hefty amount of deep pre-pro. And I still felt the same, like I would change little things here and there when tracking and be like, oh, that's better. Or I would think of an extra layer or harmony. But because of all the prep work that we did, I think everyone's voice was there, and kind of as we were tracking. Like we would make sure everyone was cool with what we had before going in and finalizing parts.
And then Mike goes in to record drums.
Yeah.
The end of Arc Essence. Like, he was working that out for 2 or 3 hours. He was writing it out. Try and play. You know which? Did you listen to it, Trey? The ending of that.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the whole thing, but I don't remember it specifically.
It's the one where it's all no idea what's going on, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
That bit. It took me probably a couple of weeks to really work out what Mike was doing, because it's constantly shifting time.
Yeah, these guys made me count a lot, for sure.
But I remember when he was in the studio recording that, because he recorded at the studio upstairs from here, and he was like, "Yeah, I thought I could just play this, but I can't, so I'm gonna have to write it down." So he was there for 2 or 3 hours writing it all out. And then I went into, watch him record, and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck you're doing. Yeah, and it took a little while to internalize it, that bit. But stuff like that just happened in the moment,
He got a wild hair up his ass. Chased it down.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We're open just to, things in the moment. If, the person that's going to be playing the part thinks it sounds cool, let's roll with it.
Yeah. And also, I will say these guys gave me a lot of leeway and freedom and respect to mess with their songs, which I was really, really humbled and honored by, because we just being allowed into this band, and then they trust me to have such hefty musical influence, not beyond the vocals. That meant a lot to me, and it was really rewarding and satisfying. And then that was like, okay, I trust these guys with my parts as well, with my vocal parts. Like, what can they bring to the table that I wouldn't be able to do? So that shit was really cool. And thanks, Brown, for trusting me.
I didn't.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm only joking. Of course I did. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, absolutely, man. We totally didn't replace you with somebody else, unbeknownst to you. You can do that with a bass player. Hard to get away with.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
We
by the
fucking
way, I keep rubbing my
you.
eyes. I'm having allergies today, so forgive me.
Yeah, you're allergic to weed.
Wait, what did you just say? Oh, did you say I'm allergic to weed?
Yeah, you're allergic to weed. That was the joke.
Wait, dude, I actually am allergic to weed.
Really?
That's what's funny. Yeah, I have a slight marijuana allergy that causes inflammation.
What are the
doesn't
fucking
mean I don't
chances
still
that I would
partake,
make that joke
but...
and it would be true?
No, I actually do. So
Holy shit.
Swanee does as well if he eats hemp seeds.
Yeah,
Swanee
has all sorts of allergies.
Wow.
Swanee's got allergies to being told what to do. That's his biggest allergy.
But yeah, we even got involved in the lyrics this time a little bit as well, which was different.
Yeah. Right. Back to relevancy. Brown wrote a fair amount of lyrics on 2 songs where I was just like, Brown, you got some shit to get me inspired. And particularly the last one, the Sumerian, was the most Brown written lyrically. I think that gave it something that I could never have come up with on my own. It was from more of like an esoteric, metaphoric, you know what I mean, Brown? Like, you just write differently than I do.
I think that everyone writes differently. That's why it's good to have political perspectives.
Yeah. But it came out awesome. Like the hybrid of our 2 minds sort of made it unique, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
The 2 minds. Yeah, sorry, that was so pretentious.
Mind meld. My mind to your mind. My thoughts to your.
Yeah. Your commenters are noticing my Majora's Mask up there. Thanks, fam. Shout out.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
I've got to say, it is the worst Zelda for me.
What? Yeah, well, you have bad taste, bro.
I mean, it's like side quests the game.
Okay, so he knows what he's talking about too. Yes, It is. That's so true. But you know what? I like side quests. Like,
Do you know what
I
it was
do
for
the
me?
side quests more than the fucking in anything. In Elden Ring, that's what I'm doing too. I just play side quests.
To be fair, in the latest Zelda Breath of the Wild, I did like the side quests as well, but
Yeah.
it's the time thing.
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
drove me-
Yeah, that's something to get
Drove
used
me
to.
fucking bonkers.
Right, right. Let's not even get started.
Oh my
I'll just go
God.
forever.
Well, but I think like side quests are something that musicians get lost in a lot.
Hey, there you go. Yep.
Like
Yep.
every time I hear somebody being like, I'm going to start a side project, I'm like, bro, you haven't put anything out with your main project yet.
God.
Do we
Well,
call
that's
could we call
that literally goes back to what we were talking about with your course, is that we can't fucking finish anything, and
can't finish anything.
you know, we get stoked on the beginnings of an idea, and then we don't want to fully follow through with it. So, yeah, it's all full circle. We just,
I mean, it's classic artist problems. Like,
yeah.
you,
Well, they say art is never finished; it's abandoned.
Only
so
abandoned.
It's hard to figure out when that point.
but you
is.
can either abandon it to the label for distribution, or you can abandon it on your hard drive, and
Yeah.
no one will ever hear it.
Right,
Um,
right.
But
Sometimes that's for the best, though.
what'd you say?
Sometimes that's for the best.
Sometimes that is for the best. That's
there's
kind
a
of
lot
why
of
you need
junk.
some outside influence. You know, you need your fifth Beatle. You need a producer. But you guys didn't work with a producer aside from Mick. Is that right? You guys basically
Yeah.
produced it yourself.
No,
But
well, you
yeah.
know, like George acted as, you know, a bit of a producer
definitely-
as well, and
he definitely helped as well. Yeah.
I think we
George
all
did.
sort of produced. That's such a wide term, but yeah, there
Yeah.
was no one that was making like hefty songwriting decisions.
But that's
In the future, though.
that's usually a question that I ask about, like, how much outside influence is there, like outside of the band or the general circle? Like, do you guys run any of this stuff past anybody else, just for input, like spouses or friends or whatever,
Yeah.
or proper producers?
If you think about it, the most important listen is the first listen. So obviously, I obviously show my girlfriend all the time what I've written, and normally gauging her response is a good indication of you know, if
Yes.
it's good or not.
Yeah,
Really
I think
good
it's important to get it from non-musicians or people that, you know, aren't like super into music, but they like music, because that's the majority of people. Not to say we're writing to fulfill a certain fan base, but also it gives you you can't really tell what you're listening to when you work on something for that long, and to give it to someone who's more objective, it's a really good point of reference to take with you. So like I would do the same, you know. I would show my friends that they like music, but they're not like fucking, you know, in a prog band or something. That's more honest than showing it to like a fellow, you know, I love guitar wanking, and they're just like,
Never show it to guitar players. They'll
There's
be like,
different ways to enjoy
"Be
music.
more
Yeah, they're-
solos."
right, and that's fine too. You know, you got people that listen to it for the technicality and the skill, and then, but I wanted to write songs that were just good songs as well.
Yeah.
And appealed to people as just music listeners and not as elitists or whatever.
I'm
And
actually
yeah,
glad that in the production we hid quite a lot of the technicality in the sound. Like there's parts where it doesn't sound as complicated as it actually is.
Right.
Which
That's kind
I
of the
think is
Monument's way, though, too. You guys kind of do that a lot.
yeah, just turn down the guitars.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's gonna be an instrumental release of this album at some point too. I do want to state that. So there's a lot going on that there's a lot to appreciate that I think without vocals would be like, oh, okay, that's going on there, and then you can go back and sort of appreciate it more. So that's a thing I'm interested in.
Sweet. That's coming from a vocalist.
Yeah. Well,
You're like, I
I'm
want to
actually
hear
really,
this without me.
Yeah, well, yes, definitely, because
There's your imposter syndrome.
well, okay, let
This
me
be
just
better
say,
without me at all.
oh god, this is not good
fine,
promo.
guys. You did a great
Okay, the album is best with vocals for sure. It's complete, it's awesome, it's there. However, I would love for people to appreciate them the way I was able to appreciate them. And in that, there's a lot going on that without vocals you can really sort of soak up. And
If it was my choice, I would give them Mick and Andy.
sure. Also, let's have an alternate mixes album where we just no. But yeah, I enjoy instrumental releases, and also it lets people do their own covers. That's another thing, is that they can sing along. That I always wanted that when I was coming up and doing vocal covers all the time. I wanted instrumental releases just that I could sing along to, and yeah. So I'm all about doing both kinds.
That's
all right.
That's pretty
First
sick.
time I've ever heard that before. I'm down.
I don't know. Come on.
Just turn off the guitars.
I want to hear it.
It's not that weird.
Oh man, I'd love to do a dive.
Okay,
into
you can't
layers.
listen to it without stem player, and it costs $200, and you have to. It's the only way. Shout out to Kanye West.
I love going into stems, even in my own shit, like going back and like soloing out certain elements and hearing them together, especially like orchestration or like layers of synths and stuff, and like hearing different combinations of them.
Yeah.
That's
Nail
the
the Mix. Let's get some of those songs on Nail the Mix so people can mess with that.
Yeah, that's super fun for me. Like I just also love learning about the way that people structure harmonies and stuff, how they do layers of stuff, and I'd love to dive
very
into
educational. And that's another thing, is like we were talking about stuff that's there but you don't really notice it's there, but you don't, it's really enhancing it. Like there's so much going on. I would love for people to just be able to dig into all the stems and the vocals
probably
too. Like, oh man,
man,
there's so many vocal tracks, and I recorded and edited it all myself, so I put a lot of love and time and care into every harmony and every, like, if you were able to listen to them on their own, you'd realize like how much is really there. That's sort of the tragedy about really complex big mixes, is that there's so many awesome elements that sound so great on their own, and then you kind of have to make a sacrifice to everyone in order to fit them all, and you lose some of the nuance. But that's just the way it is, that's part of creating an ensemble of sounds, is that there's a bit of sacrifice to each one. So
maybe we should mix the next album in Dolby Atmos so we can have one vocal in each speaker.
Oh man, one of those surround records. Yeah.
Well, Dolby Atmos is 64 channels, isn't it?
Good God. What
the little barbershop quartet of Andy's.
There's the future right there.
Oh my God, I totally have a barbershop quartet hat, but I'm not gonna grab it. They're like,
we are monuments. Oh my God.
I'd pay good money to see that. Maybe you could give us a little idea of your process for writing harmonies and layering vocals and stuff. Just a little peek into how you do that.
Yeah. So like, I'll obviously start out with the mains, and then my rule of thumb for choruses is I like to back them with a low octave to start, just to beef it up, and I always do triples for main vocals for choruses. So there's like one in the center, and then one on the left and one on the right that you turn down, and gives you a nice wide effect. And then I don't know, I just sort of like, my ear snaps into harmonies. Like I'm like, oh, that one would be really cool there, or maybe a couple words at the end of a phrase would sound great with a higher harmony. I don't really know what's a third and what's a fifth and what's a fucking, like, what the intervals are. I'm just like, that's right, yeah. And I experiment with it. I play around a lot with it. I like the choruses to be huge, and then for the verses to be a little more intimate. So I'll pull back and do less harmonies on verse stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's always been something that came naturally to me, and very rarely will I have to sit down and work out a harmony like on a keyboard. Every now and then I'm like, what is that? And I have to use MIDI, but most of the time I'm just like, you know, like save yourself while you can. Okay, save yourself while you can. Like I have a good idea of what should be there. And I just play around with it until I find the ones that I like. And sometimes I'll track more than I need as well. And then I'll just, when I hear it all in front of me, I'm like, all right, I don't need that one. And I'll just pull it out. Better to have more than less and then decide later.
Yeah, you got to have plenty for the mix engineer to mute.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, God.
No, it's blended in there real low.
I know, dude. And I'm like, oh, man, I spent like 2 hours editing that. Fuck. Yeah, but that's
just
the way
really
it is,
adds
again.
A little something, and it's not there.
A lot.
It's not
God,
there.
there's so much of that shit, dude. So much of that shit. So we fixate so much on tone, these little subtleties, these little, that you need 2 of those, double that. It's so wide, and then you got this whole fucking mix of 1,000,000 tracks, and it's like that $1,000 fucking effect is not even heard. Like, what the stupid audiophile bullshit.
The thing that really sucks is that it's like incremental, like all the effect of caring a lot about each of those little things. In the end, it's more like it's worth it, because if you didn't do that, it would be noticeable.
Yes.
If you do it, if you do it, it's people won't hear that it sucks, or like that you did something. I don't know. It's like if you do your job right, nobody's going to say anything about it.
Exactly.
If you do it slightly wrong, everybody's going to be like,
yes,
they'll hear it.
If it's there and no one's missing it because it's there. It's a lot worse. Like there's a lot of jobs that are, if they're done well, you won't know that they're done at all. I mean, same way it's like making movies. They film like way, way, way more scenes that end up getting left on the cutting room floor, because that's how that's the process of squeezing the pearl out of, you just have to accept that a lot is going to get left on the cutting room floor or sort of mixed out, but it's like one of those teeny elements that makes it unquantifiable when you're listening. That's why it's so, you can get really reductive about music opinions when you don't realize how much is going into a production. And you could sit there all day and be like, oh, just, I wish this bit was like louder or whatever, without realizing there's so much more to it than that, than just simple tweaks and simple fixes.
And that's why whenever you ask an engineer on mix revision 11, you're like, could you just turn this up a little bit, and not really thinking about how it affects the balance,
the whole mix,
of the whole thing all the way across. And if you turn this up, it's gonna be hitting this X compressor harder.
Yeah.
And they always do this like
exactly. Oh God, I know. There's such a large.
And you're like,
valley
just push the fader up, you fucking come on.
Yeah, all you want to do is just turn it up 1 dB, and they're like, yeah, but there's like a slot for it in the mix, and all these elements that are interacting with the change. There's such a big disconnect. There's a valley of disconnect between the production and what goes into it, the making of, and then the listener. When it gets to them, and like, what goes on in between is so much more complicated than a lot of people would expect.
I actually excluded myself from this conversation during the mixing stage. Do you remember
I guess a little bit, yeah. I guess
very minimal notes from me.
I was just really picky about my vocal notes, but I didn't do much to like the overall mix.
No, I just let it be, because it's just an opinion.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, we all want our parts to be louder and heard more.
I want it to be quieter.
Well, you're an alien. No, I don't know. I think you got to put your ego aside a bit and accept that the engineer you chose knows what's best for the mix. And maybe you don't need that part to be super, super loud. because it's better when it's not.
So the thing that you were saying is kind of the iceberg problem, and this is something I think that a lot of musicians can learn too, right? Like when you think about a band that you love, right? Their output, the hits, the album deep cuts, and then the whatever whatever they've actually put out, the stuff that you've heard is usually just the top bit of what they actually created. And then underneath the surface of the water, it's just a graveyard of the stuff that they wrote in various different forms. Like maybe it was just a riff or a partly formed idea. It's just a fucking massacre of shit that never saw the light of day.
Yes.
And you have to have that most of the time. Like you have to have abandoned ideas or even things that were completely done that didn't make the album or whatever. Do you guys have like how many songs did you write for the album and how many or start maybe and how many actually saw the light of day?
The amount of songs we wrote is on the record.
Okay.
Well,
actually,
okay,
that's
I
lie.
think
There's one.
that's sort of true and sort of not, because there were a lot of half songs that we let go. I think what happens is we'll get to a certain point with a song where we're like, this is worth pursuing, this is the shit, or and this one's not worth. We don't spend more time than we need to once we know if an idea is working out. It's usually not like we'll get a song that's completely finished and then be like, nah, throw it away. Like for us, we're not going to really sink our teeth into it unless we know it's worth doing. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean there was like an
got some
outro that we
stubs.
left.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's subs, yeah.
Some
for
songs.
sure.
Yeah,
Stubs.
stubs. Yeah, it's like the fucking, if you have like a marble block and then you're chiseling it off, like all those bits that fall off were half songs that never got finished. But we needed those to sort of shave that, into the sculpture of the album. We had to have those pieces get broken off and wasted. And there's always an amount of wasted material.
There was
part of
one
the process.
song
It's very meticulous genre too, as well. Being in a prog metal band, that's kind of like a huge part of it is finding out what works and mechanically disassembling it and making it as refined as possible.
There was one song as well that was going to be the last song on the record, but I cut the head off that.
I liked it, but yeah.
Yeah, it needed a bit of work. It could have been good, but it was all acoustic and it was a bit scary.
Yeah.
That's a bit scary. How many acoustic tracks are there in the Monuments catalog?
There is one acoustic part on the record.
There's no full acoustic songs, but I think that was one of those things where it was like a good idea in theory, and then when we started working on it, we were just kind of like, no, that doesn't really fit. So
at least you didn't do it and then like it was kind of whatever, and then you named the whole album on after it, like they did on Horacle.
No.
The like fucking
avoid those situations usually.
You get to the end of Horacle and then it's just this like weird strummy acoustic thing that's like fine, but you're like, why did you name the album? You could have easily cut this out and it would have. Anyway.
You kind of see that a lot, don't you? Like title tracks of albums being like not really that good. It's like, why'd you choose this one as the title? It's just, that's the theme of it, man. It's not really meant to be a good song. It's just like,
holy shit,
get into it. Yeah, so we try to avoid that, right? That things left on the cutting room floor that are meant to stay there. And we agonize over that stuff, and it does suck putting a lot of time into something that doesn't see the light of day, but sometimes you got to kill your little darlings in order to have the best piece of work for everyone. That's part of being a mature artist as well, as sacrificing some of that ego. And sometimes there's parts where ideas I personally really think is good at a certain point, and the other guys are like, nope, that isn't it, and I don't believe them. And then later on I'm like, you guys were right. That was not it at all.
There was how many times we got you to rewrite a chorus, right?
Yeah, several courses. I rewrote several courses. There was one song that I tried to fully restructure, and I like firmly believe that this was the way.
Oh yeah, you did that for Makeshift too.
Yeah. And then now that the song is the way it is, I'm like, oh, thank God we didn't do that. But yeah, that's one of those cases where I just had to trust you guys, because in my mind I was like, I'm right, and I believe this is how it's got to be. But it's like, well,
so wrong.
You guys literally like know what you're talking. Yeah. But in the moment, it's very hard to let that shit go. Emotionally, it's fucking hard when you put a lot of time into something, and then that can hurt your record if you don't know how to do that.
It was the Collapse chorus that you rewrote like 3 times.
Right. That one I rewrote. I rewrote Somnus chorus as well. That one was different. It was like questions. You remember the original one?
Fuck yeah, I do. Just remembered that.
Yeah. The new one's
Collapse as well. I wanted to not finish the song.
Bro, you wanted to scrap Cardinal Red at one point, I remember. When we were working on it. You're like, all right, boys, should we back this one? And I was like, are you fucking high? I laid into you. When I read that, I was like, no, bro. Because there's Brown's imposter syndrome kicking in. Like, that's the other thing, is sometimes we have to reassure each other. Like with Somnus, Mike wrote that one, and he was imposter syndroming it up. He was like, oh, I don't know if it's good enough. Bro, it's fire. Like, I love this. It's one of my favorite ones. So we have both of those where it's like, in your head, it's telling you it's really, really great, and your friends have to check you and be like, actually, no. Or it's like, nah, this sucks, we should abandon it. And your friend's like, nah, bro, this is really good.
Sometimes you have to take it away from someone who started it and be like, you don't know what you have here. We're going to do what needs to be done with this. You go take a lap.
Beauty of being in a band and a few people that trust each other and have faith in each other's abilities. So that, thank God, once again, thank God that we were able to keep each other in check. It would have been a mess otherwise.
That's cool. So you got like a kind of a hybrid workflow. You're all working on the things by yourselves, but also together. And there's a it's collaborative, but a solo endeavor at the same time. And it seems like you're taking all the best parts of each approach to make the final product.
Sure. That's what we try to do. I mean, it's very fortunate we're all able to record our own. Sorry, go ahead, Brown.
I was just going to say, there was chat about us all just getting in a room together to do it, which maybe we'll try on the next one.
Yeah. I think the more amenities that are available, we'll seize them. But part of why it works so well is that we all are able to record, edit, send back and forth. Like we all do this audio engineering thing. That's probably like half of why I was hired in the first place, is because they knew that I could get that shit done. And being over the pond, this is the way to make it work. And also the fact that we're a progressive metal band, it lends itself to the mechanical nature of the way we write. I think like that's just sort of mostly a complementary element to it. It makes it work. Everything that we have happens to work for what we're doing. But yeah, I would love to get in a room and jam the songs out a bit more on the next one.
Write it in the room. Yeah. Let's do an arch
or at least a bit. I kind of find that there's a lot of pressure to I don't work the best that I sort of work the best in both ways, where like I need a little bit of in the room chemistry, and then I need a little bit of I fuck off and be alone and do this, get it to where I want it to be. So yeah, the way we did it was great for hermit introvert Andy, where I could just burrow myself and get it, work on it till I got it right.
And you don't have to eat terrible English food.
Yeah. Oh God. Don't get me started, man, on that English.
You guys can take that conversation and shove it.
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm excited for you to show me the real shit.
No, there's none of it.
Okay, good. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that that's kind of how people did it for ever and ever before there was any kind of proper home recording. And you know, it obviously we have the entire like history of rock music until basically like the late 90s, early 2000s ish.
Yeah.
You know, of like decent home recording demo stuff, being able to send it over the internet and not just mail somebody a tape or whatever, you know? So
Yeah.
it's really influenced the way that people write. And then now even more so with the state of the world and not really being able to get together unless, you know, for whatever reason. And it's, I don't know, like you hear about bands like Archspire who are still doing it kind of the old school way. They get into a room and yell at each other until it's done. And it works really well for them. And then other podcast guests I've had on here, like Rivers of Nile, he basically writes everything in a room by himself and then sends it out to the band to learn, give or take, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, is it better? Is it worse?
It's freedom,
Yeah.
you know, it's doing it however you want to do it, works best for you. I think that at the end of the day, that's what's all about. You can still get into a room and do it that way if you like, or now with technology, we're free to be bedroom warriors and make music in a more introverted mechanical way, and that's totally cool. I think that I probably wouldn't have this career if not for modern recording tools.
I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, it's kind of funny how the needs of recording have influenced the methods, and then the methods have influenced the needs of recording. It's like a I don't know what's the metaphor for that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we made Guitar Pro in order to as a tool to write guitar, and now there's like Guitar Pro Music where it's like this wouldn't have even been possible if I wasn't able to write in Guitar Pro, and like that's like its own genre almost, like the faceless and everything, like super techie stuff. And now we write with that in mind. It's like, well, okay, you know, I have these recording tools, so I can just do it that way. And it opens up a lot of doors. I guess some purists and boomers might not like that. Because, you know what I mean? Like, it's not organic, man. It's not the same, but fuck it. You know?
Yeah, but then
that's just technology.
Then they're like, check out my cool organic jams down at Spanky's.
Like, yeah.
And
yeah, whatever you
know,
want to
at
do. I'm just saying,
4:30
like,
on Tuesdays, and it's just blues and e-wank.
Some people, and I'm not even trying to talk shit up because it's fine, but don't oppress others who don't want to do it that way. Like,
don't inflict that on anyone other than the bartender, please.
I try to argue that fighting against modern recording techniques or auto-tune or editing or whatever, all that stuff, that's like fighting against fucking like wearing glasses. Like, some people they have other needs and they can see better and more effectively with new technologies. And then Pierre's like, no, dude, don't, that old fangled, you're wearing glasses, new, like, it's all just, that's the way the world works. Like, when you get older and you start to resist new stuff, that's natural because you didn't grow up with it, but you need to realize that is a fear response, and it's not the way things should be response. It's because you didn't do it that way. So I'm all about embracing the new techniques, even though I don't understand TikTok. I think TikTok is like an important, you know, new platform, and that's the same way for like Melodyne and Flex Pitch and Drumagog, like all these new editing tools. You can be resistant to it, or you could be like, well, how could that enhance writing going further, the environment? So I try not to be too elitist about how people make music. As long as the product in the end is sick, doesn't really matter. Straight to tape, actually. No
Straight to
delay.
tape, no editing.
I like to do that one time though, straight to tape.
I did that actually. I used to go to a recording trade school back in the day, and they had us learn how to record to tape. It was pointless.
You've used that
when I
skill?
learned it.
I'm sure you've
Yeah.
used that since leaving.
No, no, I have not.
I had to
But,
learn on fucking ADATs, which is the worst
It's
combination of digital and analog media because
yeah, that's a very weird.
because it doesn't have any of the like tonal qualities of tape,
No,
but it's and it's not quite
And
as
it's
much
not
of a pain
convenient
in the
enough.
ass,
It's
but it's
like-
not convenient enough.
yeah, it's like still getting there. That
And at the time, they had Pro Tools. It's just that the recording program at my school, like, just wanted to kind of, I don't know, it was almost like a filtering. Like, you have to learn how to do this before we'll let
separate
you.
the boys from men. Yeah,
Yeah.
and teach you the fundamentals. It was like that with my school too. You got a lot of people that dropped out, and then once we got through the fucking tapes and the azimuth adjusting and all that bullshit, it was like, all right, here's Ableton and Logic and Pro Tools, and okay, well, you're still here. Well, good. Yeah.
I learned on this Yamaha all-in-one thing where it recorded directly to it. So it was like a hard disk recorder with a mixer on it. I don't know what it was called. It was an AW something or other.
I
Still
hated
don't-
those things.
It was like like a digital desk, but you could record into it.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to use it now. And I learned on that.
Those things are the worst. Sometimes I still hear about people buying those, and I'm like, bro,
Wow.
what?
Retro.
A multi-tracker, I think is what.
In a way,
might
though,
refer to it.
I think it's kind of, don't beat me up here. I think it's kind of smart to sometimes separate the computer with recording.
Canceled.
No, there's a reason why. Is that the moment I go to write while I'm sat in front of this desk, I can't write anything because I've automatically got it in my brain that I need to record something.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
I think the separation is sometimes good.
that's
For
true
that.
too. I mean, I should take my fucking mic in the shower because it seems to be all when I think of any good idea, and then when I sit down at my desk.
That's why you've got your
First three.
phone, mate. You've got a voice recorder in
No, I
there.
literally will. I'm not even joking. I'll jump out of the shower and be like, da da boo, da da, ra, da 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 da. All right, save that for later. Then get back in the fucking shower.
But
Yeah.
most of the riffs on this record are recorded in my kitchen or my living room as videos on my phone.
That's true, dude. And Brown does that so much. Like, he'll jam out a riff unplugged on his electric guitar and be like, "Oh yeah, that's it." I'm like, how do you fucking write a literal prog metal riff like that unplugged?
The chorus
It's
of
just-
the chorus
it's a
of
Brown
False
thing,
Providence.
man.
The chorus of False Providence, one that came out last week. The riff was written in my kitchen, and on the video, all you can hear is my washing machine.
It's also pretty cool though that you do it that way, because if you can make it sound good like that, it's like, imagine how sick it's gonna sound plugged in. And
It's just easier to hear the notes when it's not covered in a wall of distortion.
if you can play well, yeah. But a lot of these jabronis are out here hiding behind distortion. So, no, I'm sorry. See, look, now I'm being a boomer right now. I'm being elitist.
Yeah, you are. You're being a groomer.
behind
No,
all
I'm
these
just saying
effects
that
and
Brown
their
is a
axe
very-
effects and-
He's a very clean guitar player, and I love that you can write that way and just play your Crazy.
I found the method that works for me.
works
Like,
for
sitting
you.
in
Yeah.
front of-
Yes.
Sitting in
Exactly.
front of this computer, nothing comes out unless the initial inception is there. So
Sure.
just
Yeah.
go with that. Just take my guitar home, sit on my sofa,
Mhm.
Netflix on,
Your
chill.
comfort zone. Yeah. That's where the good stuff comes out. Totally.
Yeah, I think when you're sitting in front of an open Pro Tools session or whatever, there's
Never
this,
Pro Tools.
yeah, this. What'd you say?
I said never Pro Tools.
An open Reaper session. Bro.
Open wrist Studio
Nope.
One.
Nope.
There's like this kind of, I mean, it's red light syndrome to a degree. Sometimes I come up with some brilliant shit, but if I go back and look at my phone, the memos of where I, like videos of where I came up with my best shit that I like, it's always sitting on my couch in front of the
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah, where there's no
zoning
pressure.
out. Yeah,
That's
letting
right.
my hands
I
kind of
think
go.
it's like my rule of thumb is that I usually come up with a lot of cool and creative ideas. Like if I'm in the shower or I'm falling asleep or I'm like really stoned or I'm in traffic, and that's not a good time to try and compose a full and fucking like do the damn thing. But being creative and just jotting those ideas down, and then you can execute them from a more sober environment.
Yeah, the inception of the
But
idea.
yes, the spark is something that needs to happen in a comfortable, creative way. So, yeah, totally. It's just carrying it out with the dirty work. That's when you got to be locked into your desk and focused. And it's like, but yeah, I totally agree. I've never really been able to put it that way. I like that.
So, but yeah, that's it's one of the many parts of this very long process, which is like something that I talk about a lot in my, on my streams, which are mostly about songwriting and my course and everything. Like we're not really taught as musicians in like individual lessons or whatever, like what it is, that songwriting is this much more involved process and there's all these parts of it. The inception part is where most people get stuck. Like a lot of people can come up with those things, like little nuggets of ideas, riffs, motifs, like a line worth of lyrics that's cool or whatever. Getting it to here is a fucking process. It's everything, really.
You ever played Death Stranding?
No.
The walking simulator game.
You like that Strand type gameplay, like that Norman Reedus type fucking.
No. What I'm saying is songwriting is like that.
Okay.
Oh,
just like
that. Okay, for you, Strand Kojima fans, you'll know what he's talking about.
Please describe.
It's like hours of nothing to then eventually spend like 2 minutes defeating a boss.
Yeah,
that's what songwriting is.
There's a lot of grinding and laboring.
And,
tribulation. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of nothing happening for a very long time, and then getting frustrated. Then all of a sudden, you've written something in it, and you think it's bad, and then you flesh it out, and then it turns out to be all right.
Yeah, I also think that like that's a caveat of recording and producing and editing your own shit is that you completely lose sight of what it is for a while. Like I have to really remove, like once we finished recording and editing, I was like, I'm not listening to this shit for 2 weeks. And then when I was able to come back and hear it, my point of reference was refreshed and readjusted. But yeah, I mean the ear fatigue and just it's like this is my own shit syndrome. It makes it so you can't even tell if it's good or bad anymore after a certain point. So that it's always good to recalibrate and get away from it after all that painful Death Stranding type writing. That game is no, I don't like that game.
It's the gaining and or losing and regaining perspective. It's extremely hard to do, especially when you want to be working on it all the time. Like you're excited about it. It's the thing that you do, it's your job / your passion. You want to be in there in Pro Tools, like coming up with all in your DAW of choice, coming up with all the parts. But then it's, if you're too close to it all the time, you don't know if it's good or not. There's no such thing as good.
Yeah.
There's no objective good.
By your own songs.
Stockholmed by your own songs.
Yeah, like legitimately, because it's being shoved down your throat by yourself, mind you, but it's to the point where it's just do I like this because I made it, because I've been exposed to it repeatedly and I'm now a prisoner of it, or do I like it because it's good? Fuck, I don't know. And that's a war. Always. And that's why we got to tell each other, we got to remind each other that it is, or that it sucks, because you can have that too. You could be so up your own ass that you think something is good when it's dog shit. You have to be like, bro, I love you, but nah.
That doesn't mean that they're right though either.
Yeah, but the ego does crazy things. The ego
it
can
does.
build you up to insane extremes, or it can knock you down to the lowest of lows. But you got to have your peers to keep you grounded wherever you're going, wherever you're swinging.
It's handy that you guys operate as a unit in that sense, because you can bounce all these ideas off each other. There's always this levels of getting feedback and some perspective on it, like some outside perspective. Like you guys have described, you'll send ideas to the group Discord. People will be like, "Oh, this is sick," or "Oh, I can do this with that. We can change it like this." Blah blah blah. You're bouncing stuff off, but it's still within the circle of caring, sharing, and respect. The circle of trust, and then
Yeah.
But then eventually, you put it out to the big circle of fans, new listeners,
YouTube, Lamb Goat.
the land of comments and anonymous feedback from people who are shielded by anonymity. So now that you've got a few out there in the world, do you feel like the response to the singles that you've released so far has been, do you feel like they're picking up what you're putting down?
Yeah, I think 85 to 90% of people are picking up what we're putting down, which is very encouraging. And honestly, a lot more than I expected, because I think Monuments is a pretty polarizing band, or it can be, especially with having two other past vocalists and the sound shifts. Inevitably the lineup changes will change the sound. But that being said, most people have been very receptive and open to the direction we're going in, and I think it's evident what we're shooting for. There's always going to be a smaller percentage of people that there's like, I'm not vibing with this, I don't get this, I prefer the way things were, which is completely valid and fine. But also, as we go, I see a lot of those people being like, oh, it's growing on me. Damn. Okay. Like, I get it now. So, yeah, it's a combination of being validated, being checked and humbled, and then being like, just trust us. Give it some time.
I think there's also a slightly better, more something that doesn't eat away at you kind of way to look at it, is that ultimately, without being arrogant, we've written these songs kind of for ourselves. Like, if we don't like them, then we can't expect anyone else to.
Yes.
So
yeah.
The way that I always see it is, if someone doesn't like it, then it doesn't necessarily matter, because that's not who it's for.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that perspective, then it won't ruin your day.
To me, it's I love the songs we made because it's the music that I want to hear,
Exactly. Yeah.
We're making the music that we want to listen to. I genuinely do mean that. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I don't even like metal, I only listen to hip hop. Like I really, really do like what we did, and I think that we have good taste. So if we like what we did, and I believe we have good taste, then of course other people are gonna like it. And the notion that we make music for ourselves first is definitely true. However, I also do want the fans to enjoy it like a family. So I would say that I write with that in mind as well. It's not totally just fuck everyone else. I'm doing this for me and me alone. It's never true. But to an extent, it's like I have to be into what I'm doing fully, or else fuck that. I'll get a desk job, like whatever. But yeah. As if I'm like going back to what Brown was saying, if I'm satisfied musically, then it's all good. It doesn't really matter what a couple jabronis say. But yeah, it's all
happy that
a couple
people do
jabronis.
like it.
It's the response has been really great. I feel super flattered and grateful and relieved that
there's always going to be jabronis, but
Yeah.
there's always as long
I don't
as,
even know
as long
what
as most
jabroni
people
is.
can smell what the Rock is cooking.
right or not. Wow, bro. That was great.
That's all that really
Good.
matters.
Jabroni Brown is a wrestling term that The Rock in particular used to use a lot to describe his feeble opponents. And I'm not even saying if you don't like what we're doing, if you have different opinions, it doesn't mean you're a jabroni, by the way. But you know what I'm saying? Like, enough people are really down with what we're doing that the confidence, it's all there. I feel the love. I'm encouraged to keep pushing the direction that we're pushing.
That's the jam. I think you're always your first audience. You're the immediate filter of what's coming out, and you have to, if you're not stoked on it, you're not gonna continue working on it or whatever, you know. Like, you have to like it, and the whole point, the reason your fans trust you and trust what you're doing is because of your aesthetic taste and preferences, and that's what you're doing. You're putting that out into the world. You're like, this is what we like, this is the sound that we like, and that we're going for. I
think it's also difficult, like, when you have a sound that is, I wouldn't say it was unique, but because obviously there's a lot of bands that do this kind of style, but it has a particular flavor to it that is recognizable, and it's really hard to sort of pull too far away from something that you've spent the foundational of working on. And so there's this like point where if you don't go far enough, some people will say you're just doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go too far, then you've changed too much for the other people. And where is that line? That's the difficult part to find.
Yeah, and it's definitely there's so many difficult parts to find and to navigate. Like
a good example of this actually is Dream Theater. So when you listen to Dream Theater, every album sounds quite different, but you can hear the Dream Theater isms within it. Like, for example, if you listen to Octavarium, it sounds a bit like Muse, but there's certain elements of it that make it, without a doubt, Dream Theater, you know? So it's like, how far can you push that line before someone says, I wanted the amanuensis again?
Well, but also it's okay if someone does say that, you know what I mean?
I mean, the album's always there though.
And I think it's like a challenge of trying to capture all of these elements, be fresh, be true to yourself, satisfy the general public, satisfy the neck beards, and like all these things. It's like an impossible. I'm sorry.
Satisfy the neck beards.
I meant to say the
great.
Particular progressive metal socially
Incels.
Popular fans. But you know what I'm saying? Like we all have a little bit of that inside, and it influences how we write and what goes into the formula of trying to make a sick song and encompass all of these different things while still making it tasteful. It's quite the challenge, but if you're okay with what you've done at the end of the day, then that's a win for sure. Trying to rein in all these elements and still being stoked on what you're doing, that's the real challenge. And if we can do that, then I'm always happy.
Here's a question. With that in mind, what are some things that you guys did on this album to push beyond what you've done before to make it fresh and new? And did it work?
I was exploring different key centers, as I said already earlier, you know, Mixolydian flat 6, for example. And I allow myself a certain amount of like going outside of my usual thing. I don't like to do it for every song because then everyone will just be like, it's too different to the what makes that sound. So I just give myself a certain amount of exploration beyond what I would normally do. As I say, you can go too far. You can stray too far from the path or go off the beaten track too far.
Off the Beaten Track was a pre-pro name of one of our songs, actually.
Which was also quite different for a Monument song, funnily. So adding elements to what you've already got, I think, is a good way to see how far you can go. But then maybe just doing something that was completely off, like, for example, putting an acoustic guitar in there and writing an acoustic song and then scrapping it.
But with when we did that, it allowed us to still, like, there are acoustic elements in another song, but I don't think we would have gotten to that point if we hadn't been like, let's try to write an acoustic song.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, for me, because I wasn't in Monuments obviously until this album, but I studied Monuments a lot, especially upon joining, and I've been a fan, and I definitely pushed myself out of my usual comfort range, and I tried to embody what made them so great, especially vocally with Chris in the past, and still retain those soulful elements while being true to myself. That was something that obviously wouldn't happen if I didn't replace such a sick vocalist that came before me. So I wanted to try to not be like, oh, I'm putting on a thing to sound like Monuments, but encapsulate those good qualities and put my own spin on it. And that pushed me to exercise my range more and do some lower stuff and some more soulful stuff, and just unconventional ways of using my voice that I wouldn't normally have done. And also, I think we tried to make this album more cohesive and songy and structured than previous Monuments albums. Like, I see this as an album full of singles, an album full of, like, just straight up bangers that have good familiarity and structure and motifs and, like, callbacks, versus a progressive linear, which is great, but, you know, we're sort of trying to do something different. So yeah, just making the songs more songy was a conscious effort on this one.
There's nobody can complain about that except for the neckbeards.
Yeah. Well, fuck. I mean, I'll complain about that, beardless Andy, all day, because, like, I do love me some progressive linear jams, but it didn't feel, I don't know, it just didn't feel natural. Like, what we did here was just sort of where we naturally gravitated towards, and I think that will make the songs stand the test of time a little bit better, give them more replay value.
People like repeats.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, even when it's, I don't know, riff salady, kind of like longer, stretched out stuff, even if it's a bunch of unrelated ideas or just just crazy shit, and then you bring back just one thing.
Yes, bro, you know what you're talking about. This is the type
Fucking
of shit
hits.
I think about all the time. You're just like, oh, but what if, you know, we did that a lot on this album too, where I was like, let's bring this part back and I'll throw this vocal part back. It ties it together, man. When you tie something together, it's like, now there's foreshadowing in the song. Now there's a callback. Now it's like a literary device, but for music, and it enhances the experience. I'm so fucking about that, man. I love that shit. I love hearing that shit. You know, I love hearing it from other bands, so I wanna do it too.
I like hearing it between albums. That's why I mentioned Dream Theater earlier.
Right. Well, that's big brain moves. You know what I mean? That's when you've really found yourself, and you can. We try to do that a little bit here and there as well.
Pliny is really good at that. I noticed he's got like a signature motif, like a lay motif that
and he does it without
up.
lyrics. He does it without vocals. That is the shit, man. That's like, oh, it was like this element that's ever present from the first part to the end, like thematic. That's brilliant. Yeah, the lick. Yeah. Yes, Pliny's a great example. I think it's so impressive that he can do that with no vocals too. Just being, it's like communicating without a voice, and
I think to a degree that is kind of present in a lot of people, that sometimes people reference that as being copying themselves. I think that bringing back of motifs is actually part of our personalities, and you can hear it in every band to a degree. If an album sounds kind of similar, then it's probably that coming out, because people have certain sounds that they gravitate towards, that they like how it sounds.
But there is a fine line between paying homage and then just recycling, and you have to be aware of that, presently aware, and it's it's kind of like,
I don't think people recycle enough. I don't think there's enough.
Yeah,
like I think people get caught up in having to like constantly generate something new and different all the time, but really like bringing stuff back all the time is it's easier, and it's much, in my opinion, makes for much more cohesive songwriting. Like,
yes, yeah. Let's grow, but we have the same skeleton. Let's grow. Let's not change, completely into another person. Let's add on to who we are and what we have, while still maintaining the bones that are inside. For sure.
Yeah, this is what I was discussing in the Jurassic Park thing, Jurassic World. It's like that same. It took me straight back to 1993.
Yeah. I noticed, Brown, you're very influenced by moments, by specific moments that they made you feel something.
If you take the new out of Monuments.
Wait, what'd you say?
If you take the NU out of Monuments, what do you have?
Moments.
He's fast. You fried it. The moment's gone. Yeah, no, that's how, Brown, I think that's how you write, how you get inspired. You just get inspired by a moment in a body of work, and it like influences you. And I see
it's normally something terrible.
I don't. There's a self-deprecation. I don't think it's terrible. I think that a lot of times what you've found is something that's like profound or relatable, like a vulnerable human experience.
I think it's weird, because I remember the weirdest thing. Like, I'll remember what someone's socks were on September 3rd, 1993.
Yeah, and then as a result, we got that lyric in False Providence that the socks are there. No. They were white and striped.
It's like, yeah, it's this weird thing. I'll just remember these weird little things all the time. I guess that's kind of what inspires certain
things. The scent in the air that was present that day, or whatever, just something that you can grab onto and it transports you back to that time.
So glad I don't remember smells.
Well, none of us do. It's COVID nation. Okay, none of us.
Can you guys give us a concrete example of something in one of these songs on the album that you did that kind of thing, where you brought back some stuff and you feel like it worked?
Anything for that?
Let me have a think.
Well, there's
leave that with me for a couple of minutes.
What was the sound in False Providence? How did that happen? The guitar.
That wasn't a callback per se, though. That was just random.
Oh, that was like a mistake.
It was a mistake. That one, yeah. So that one wasn't really it. I'm just trying to have a think here of this.
Yeah. Now that you're putting them on the spot, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I need to look at the track. Well, okay, so like no one will. Let's talk about No One Will Teach You. That was a quote from Avatar, right?
Yeah.
No one will teach you to see, or no one can teach you.
No one can teach you to see was the original inspiration for that.
Yeah, which was like a moment in the flick that isn't really even. It's not like we're Avatar crazy. It's like that theme itself, that no one can teach you to see, is very powerful, and something that sort of, I think, resonates throughout life in a number of ways. And it makes me think of times in my life where that was relevant, and then we bring it back into the song. And I don't know, that to me, that's like a real life callback, calling back to my own past.
I actually watched that film a lot when it first came out. I thought it was great. Still do.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But that particular phrase always sort of stuck with me. It was quite cool that no one can teach you to see.
Yeah, so that's and then it made it into the song because Nima decided to use that as an actual lyric.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of a musical callback right now. You've put me on the spot, Trey.
Well, how about this? This might make it a little bit easier. What do you think is the most powerful moment on the album, and how did you construct it? And did it involve some kind of a callback? Like, what do you think hits the hardest emotion?
My favorite point on the record is the middle section of False Providence, even though it's like probably the most simple part.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, it's just that, you know, where after that weird noise, it comes in and it comes into this like chord sequence that's like, on guitar, it's not difficult to play at all, but
then it's not good. Pick a different
one. It's huge. It sounds big. It's epic. It's a big moment. Yes.
I was like, I've been pretty inspired by Hans Zimmer over the last couple of years, pretty much since Inception came out. And yeah, and I just wanted to create that. So I was watching Interstellar. I remember when No Time for Caution came on, and it was like so powerful, and I wanted to recreate something like that. So that moment kind of like is getting closer to that. What I want to experience.
That's such a good shout too. That score is amazing.
Yeah. So that part, yeah, definitely quite powerful.
Yeah, you're talking about like
yeah, exactly.
Down,
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. It's just like a hemiola, but
yeah, that part's huge and epic. Definitely one of the most powerful. I was gonna say that too, or maybe
also the second to last riff of the Cimmerian.
Right. That was the other one.
Drops to the
all
acoustic.
That was ever lost. Like that fucking flourish. Yeah. Big moment there. For sure.
That's like a call from a little bit of Cardinal Red in there actually as well.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
There's one bit, yeah. One call back. I'll get back to you on this, Trey.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's like gnawing at me. I'm like, I'll think of like 5 of them.
Yeah, and like there's a couple of like approaches on the guitar that sort of made its way into a lot of the songs. Like the hammer-on kind of style of riffing.
Ooh, I actually have something. I don't know if this is exactly the answer to your question, but there is a song called Opiate where I bring a chorus back. From a song that I wrote in like 2013, and it's like one of my old. If you're an Andy fan, you can probably still dig it up. It's like a very, very old, and I was like, you know, this would be really sick right here. So yeah, it's like a 10-year-old line, and I brought it back.
Cool.
So there's a physical callback.
I ask hard questions.
I think you asked hard-hitting questions. You asked the good ones. You get us talking.
Getting to the real core of what's important.
Fucking shut up. Yeah, I literally can't stop talking.
That's cool though. I think looking backwards when you're writing is extremely important. Like once you've got something going on in the song, if you look, like instead of like looking forward to making like more and more new things, if you look backwards to what you've already got.
Right. Yep. Like just like you were saying, like you bring that one part back, it ties it together, it makes it. Humans just like that, the familiarity of it. And it's like short-term nostalgia. I don't know what it is, but
I like that short-term nostalgia.
Yeah. Nostalgia is like a really, really powerful thing, like more powerful than sex even. It's such a selling point to have stuff that's familiar. Like,
well, it's like bringing back the riff but slower and lower.
Yeah, and you're like,
why does that work so fucking well?
Oh yeah, like I love stuff that was previously introduced. It makes us feel a sense of comfort. It's like a stand-up comedian telling jokes that are relatable. You're like, yes, I feel more normal now. You know that riff. Oh yes, like I've grown accustomed to it. I can't. It's just a phenomenon, you know. But it works. It's satisfying. It makes us feel good. Familiarity legitimizes one of your comments. So that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. The I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Neely's channel.
Oh, I love Adam Neely. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
He says repetition legitimizes.
That's brilliant.
And that's basically awesome. The same thing. Familiarity, like that's how you create familiarity is with repetition. Like that's how that's literally what it is. You you saw it or heard it before.
Yeah.
That's what
And
makes
then
it
and then
familiar.
the challenge is bringing it back in a unique way. That's not just like a token. Obviously, you're just pasting it.
But also, I've noticed that in certain songs, when it's a really good part, I have a tendency just to keep repeating it. I'm pretty sure we've all done that.
Yeah, you're like, ooh, I need to hang on to this moment for a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think repetitions are good.
Yeah. Now, what I really like is bringing something back, but just tweaking it a little bit. And then you've got the familiarity and the freshness, which makes you want to listen again. You change a note here and there in the chorus, or you do that last part higher or slower, like you said, or
you do a different chord to get the next section or whatever.
Or like I'll scream it first and then I'll sing it second, but the words are the same. Just finding it. It's like a little puzzle and little clever ways to do it, so you're not just being cheap about it.
When you're structuring the songs, are you thinking about it like that? You're you got a few choruses in a song to do. You could do slightly different things with it. Is there anything that you do most of the time like that? Like,
I wouldn't say most of the time, but like, for example, Cardinal Red, the two choruses during that song, the first one, it does the dominant 7 at the end. And then on the second version, it actually goes to the major 7th. So then you got like the harmonic minor sound.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously the major 7th in a minor key pulls towards the root in a really cool way. So it created a different tension at that point between the two.
That was a very cool and interesting choice, where it was like you are repeating it, but you're changing it, but slightly.
Same with the middle section of False Providence on the 4th repeat. The second chord changes and also the last chord changes. So the second chord just it's the same root note, but the actual chord has changed, giving it a different sort of feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the last, it goes to the minor 6th of the scale as opposed to the 5th.
Yeah.
So then it just gives it lets you know that it's going to go somewhere, almost, because it's changing.
I like that. That's a nice non-cheap way to do it. I think we all sort of have our tendencies that, I'm like, oh, now is where we should definitely bring the chorus back because it makes sense in it. And if it works for the song, then that's great. But then there's times where it's like, oh, I've done this too much in other songs. I want to try to approach it differently. So I'll consciously try to break away from those tendencies and not write the same song structure again. But yeah, we all sort of gravitate towards little habits, I'm sure, here and there.
Pop song structures are the best.
Yeah.
Clip that shit and put it.
Yeah, I mean, the I remember seeing someone where it's like someone was saying I was using the same, sequence when it comes to structure, but at the same time, it's like the pop structure has been used for 50 years and people still love it.
And I think there are creative ways to deviate from that, but still remain true to a familiar structure. Like that, again, that's the challenge, is making it tasteful. You can definitely still not recycle, but reuse elements of other structures, but then maybe instead of like putting a final chorus there, you make a really big and epic bridge. Like a lot of times that's what it'll be. It'll be like, okay, we're at a point in the song where we can either jam out a third chorus because that will work and it's kind of predictable, or we can take this sort of, it's like a theme that resembles the chorus, but it isn't. It's like a big epic finisher instead. Like that's something that I guess in Sumerian, for example, we did that. Instead of bringing back the chorus again, we have like a different ending part, but it's still, it feels familiar. It's not like a riff salad, new randomness. It feels familiar, but it's not the exact same. And that's kind of, it's like getting away with it.
I mean, like for me, like Arc Essence and Collapse they're kind of structured in a pop way, but not really.
It's like progressive because the chorus each time adds another measure, which is like pretty sick. That was cool.
Oh, yeah,
Arc
Arc Essence. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so that one,
Oh
it's
yeah.
that one, like, it keeps adding to it as each chorus changes, and it adds a really strange chord sequence to it, and it gets weirder on each chorus.
Yeah, that's something I would have thought to do. Yeah, he like plays the chorus. The second time he plays the chorus, he adds another measure to the chorus, and then again the chorus comes back and he adds another measure to it, and it makes me have to like do something different. Like it's not like
and
just
it's
repeating
weird
it. It's like
chord.
another. I can't even explain it.
It's a really strange chord. I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, what's happening?
That's cool though. That's a
weird chord.
So just then as you go, it's growing a weird growth.
It's kind of
like
a
weird growth on the back of my neck.
What's that song that's on Artist in the Ambulance by Thrice? Is it Hoods on Peregrine? Where there's that one section where it does like 7/8 and then 6/8 and then it hits the stab. I can't remember if it's on that song now, but there's one weird thing where it's moving like 1/8 note. It was kind of thinking about it a little bit like that.
Yeah, little tweaks. Because then that's what it is. You satisfy the casual listeners that want familiarity, but you also satisfy the more particular and distinguishing listeners that are looking for deviations from the norm. And that's what gives it. I love that. It gives it replay value. You have the familiarity, but you also have like second listen. I never noticed that before. They tweaked that. That's fucking cool. And it makes you want to spin it again. And yeah, that's the ultimate goal is the best of both worlds. I'm not trying to be like just slap together a pop chorus and it's good, it's done, fine, whatever. Like I want it to be satisfying and rewarding. You know, it's like you put your time in, you get rewarded. You listen to it again, you get a cookie for that. You know? You learn something new. I love the best kind of music is where it's catchy, but also you hear something different each time. It's really hard to get both because you can either have catchy and you've heard it once and you know it, or you can have you hear different things and it's unique, but it's like overwhelming linearity and it takes forever to get to know. But the best ones are like Muse, you know, Radiohead. A lot of more legendary bands have figured out how to do both, and that's a great piece of art to me. And hopefully we've sort of accomplished that a little. I don't know.
I really like.
I'm not trying to like wank and say our record is awesome, but I think that.
But
our
it is
goals
though. So
you're
not allowed to say it, but I am.
I think it's
5 out of
cool,
7.
and hopefully people think it's cool.
I like that idea a lot. You starting with like a pretty basic structure that people are expecting, and then messing with that a bit, taking the familiar and then adding little twists, I think is more exciting than something random or like like that can be very cool to do a completely fresh and new song structure as long as there's like a payoff. But like it's really cool to take something so familiar and give them almost a bait and switch, you know?
Yes,
like they're
keep you on your toes.
That a certain thing. You set up an expectation,
right?
And then you do something different, then you get a cool surprise. You can't have a surprise otherwise, you know?
And you can make that as subtle or as extreme as you want. And I think you know, keeping the listener on their toes, that's a good balance versus throwing them into a completely other like deep end where they have no idea where they are, or keeping them sitting on their ass bored. And then, you know, there's the middle ground, keeping them on their toes. We're like, whoa, this is the same, but it's different. Nice. Like, all right. Like, it's exciting. It's like a roller coaster. You know, you're not going to die, but you feel that adrenaline and fear anyway. And you're like, oh my God, you know, it's like a horror movie. Like it changes it up enough and it thrills you, but you're not going to drown in obscurity. Or whatever. Sorry.
Oh, and then here comes the imposter syndrome. or whatever.
I know I can't
Or like-
can't commit to a statement.
Let me say something really compelling and true, and then
Fuck, you're
or
pulling
whatever.
these vulnerabilities out, Trey.
yeah, well, I appreciate you making yourself vulnerable enough
Oh God.
for me
No,
to
thank you,
bag on
man. It really good questions. Yeah.
I think that song structure is very under appreciated by a lot of metal bands, especially just
Yes.
heavy music in general.
We're catching up now. Like it.
Yeah.
For decades, it was like fuck structure. Let's just be, goofy looking kids that are actually virtuosos and shock people with our skills. Like that was what it was about for 20 years.
Yeah. And like early metal had mostly basic kind of pop song structures, once again with a lot of this other stuff, but like
Right.
yeah, like most like Maiden and Priest and stuff like that. And that's when, it was the shit. It was the biggest that metal has really been. All the bands
Yes.
from that era
Yes,
and
yes.
and a little bit later, and then like
Then we took that and tried to be like, how extreme can we be? And that's what it became. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what it was all about. Is how fast can you double bass and how many crazy riffs can you put in? Yeah, you're right.
And I think
You're right.
there's a lot of that is awesome and like made metal better in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Like getting people interested in getting great at their instrument, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like pushing themselves
Mhm.
to do
Odd
crazier
time
shit.
signatures. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, a lot of people went so far down the rabbit hole that they forgot about writing a song,
Yeah.
know?
And that's what it was.
A lot
We
of
just
people
kinda
blame
swung-
Dream Theater, but I think that's bullshit because
Dream
Dream
Theater have
Theater
great structure.
are fucking
Great
great
structures.
at structure. They really think about that shit. They're composing it.
Mhm.
Tons of callbacks, thematic motifs.
You can tell
and
which
stuff.
one's the chorus and which one's the verse.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of bands forgot about that.
Yeah,
And
we
you didn't.
sort of just hacked it for years. We sort of just like we're like, you'd hear Dream Theater as a young person and you'd be like, oh wow, listen to all those insane, crazy progressive elements. And you'd sort of forget that they're also writing really good structured songs. So you'd just be like, I want to make songs with crazy progressive elements. And then, you got like the prog scene for ages and ages. And yeah, now we're catching up. Now we're back to realizing the value of strong song structure, but we're retaining those cool, special prog elements that we experimented with for so long.
I think we got lost in the sandbox.
Lost
a
in the
little bit.
sandbox, lost in the sauce. Like bands like Spirit Box are a good example of a good balance between pop and song structure, and then also you've got some very interesting riffs and arpeggios and prog wankery hidden in there, but it's there.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome.
I honestly, more than anything else, just appreciate that you guys are thinking about it. And excuse me. I'm still just getting over COVID, actually. Just that you even give a shit and you're thinking about it in a way that's
Thanks.
that's integral to the songwriting process.
That's what happens when you get old and you're still doing it,
Yeah, you look like you're 16. Fuck you.
Oh, dude, thank you. I'm gonna be 30 very soon. So
Holy
I appreciate
shit!
that.
I can't.
Oh dear.
I can't believe it.
Shut up. Shut up, Brown.
Well, but yeah, I like kind of. It's a little bit of the old boom, like wow, I can't just all these kids.
Well, I guess what I meant to say is
But
it comes with experience.
You're right.
It comes with
I think you're right.
doing it for a while.
And
you know?
also the return on investment.
Right, that's the other thing
put all that
is
fucking
now
work
my
in.
pockets are hurting. Like when I was 20, I was fine with making progressive wank core that like I just saw a comment that was like, you can either play 3 chords to 3,000 people or 3,000 chords to 3 people. And like, I didn't give a shit. I would be fine with playing 3,000 chords to 3 people when I was 19, because I just wanted to prove how badass I was. You know, like that was my goal for making music, is like flexing with the big dogs. And now I want something sustainable that will stand the test of time and be how can I say this without sounding like a total sellout? Be a great way to make a living.
Yeah, I like. Also, I don't think that you can't really think of it like selling out or doing it just for commercial reasons. Because I don't think it's this hard polarity of either you're doing this fucking self-indulgent, like, long song form without giving a shit about the listener's experience or whatever, or you're doing this very formulaic pop song structure or anything like that.
Yeah, why not both?
Or
But even so,
this isn't the other end of the spectrum even. Like, if you're going to do like long format or like larger works, like Beethoven's shit is, you know, like fucking 30 minutes. It's not it's not wanky or self-indulgent.
It's not
like,
rich salad,
it's just deep. And
very deep.
Like, it's all based on, even like the Fifth Symphony, you know, it's based on a fucking 2-note, 3 notes motif.
It's closure now. It has
developed
it has
on that. And you know, there's a lot of space in between, but like there's no fucking reason you can't also fit it into something advanced and awesome into a 3.5 minute banger.
Yeah, I think that I care more about tying things up in a neat and complete way, which has really nothing to do with commercial success and money, but just more to do with what is emotionally satisfying. And that luckily, things that are emotionally satisfying happen to also be usually commercially viable, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it scratches a human itch that we all enjoy. So
nobody's playing prog metal for the money. Like, nobody gets into it for that.
Or metal in general. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's good for the soul. That at the end of the day, it's always been about, you know, releasing these demons in a healthy way. And if we can somehow do that and also make a living and also create something that people enjoy, then that's a W for sure.
Well, it seems to me, having listened to it, that you've achieved that with this. I mean, you won't know if it's going to be commercially viable until it actually drops on April 14th.
15th.
15th. Sorry. Right, the Ides of April. I literally said that earlier. Is there an Ides of every month? I have no idea.
Definitely the Ides of March, because that's an album by Miles Kennedy.
Yeah, well, and it's right. That's the thing, but you never hear about the Ides of other months. Is what I'm curious.
Maybe it doesn't exist,
but it's, who knows. We're making it a thing now. So the Ides of April, April 15th.
What is an Ide?
Google, what is Ides? Can you have a singular Ide?
I've got one Ide, no more. One die to roll. One Ide to roll.
But on that date, the people will be able to cast their vote with their money and their streams. So go pre-save in Stasis right now if you're listening to this. It is very sick. To me, the best Monuments album thus far.
Oh, man.
I've only listened to it once, though. I might, on second listen, revise.
Thank you. Let's just
my thinking
end there. Best so far.
You can put that quote on your press release if you like.
Thank you, man. That means a lot to me.
You know, the best out of this pile of garbage.
Thank you for real. Thank you for saying that. That's
The
very
smartest
kind.
kid on the short bus. No, it's really great. It's really great. Your voice sounds amazing. Production is off the fucking.
Shout out to George
It's
Lever
awesome. Loving the mix
and Jens Bogren.
and
Jens,
Jens, the master.
the fucking man. Love Jens' shit. And so you guys have also your personal stuff that you're doing, like your Andy, you're streaming.
That's right.
Brown, you've got Riff Hard. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find that stuff, what you're looking for?
Riffhard.com. Go and sign up. Loads of things to learn guitar from. World's best school for online rock and metal guitar players.
Riff Hard, baby.
And yeah, we've this month it's Jack Gardner as our guest instructor. We've had Miles Dimitri Baker from Interloper, Wes Hauk from I always forget his band
Alluvial.
name. That's the one. Thank you.
It's
go on. What are you gonna say?
Dean.
Yeah, Dean Lamb and from Archspire, Malcolm Pugh from Inferi.
It's Dick Rippers only.
Yeah, Mike Dawes, he's been a guest as well. Dan Sugarman, Iceland Kills, had him too. And I've probably forgotten someone. It's going through my brain right now. No, I think I actually remembered everyone. There we go.
Right.
And then obviously anything from me if you want to learn how to hit the string in one direction.
But only up to and never surpassing 240
I fucking
BPM.
love you, dude. Never change.
If you want to go past that, there's riffharder.com. Don't go there.
Riff even
that
harder.
doesn't exist.
And then obviously this is monuments.co for anything monuments related. Tour dates coming up in Manchester, Nottingham, Bristol, Birmingham, London. There's loads more being announced. There's loads more tour dates that we haven't announced yet that are coming up.
The Andy Eats Fish and Chips tour.
Yeah, and that's all I'm going to be doing is just fish and chips all day long.
On stage, not even singing. It's just
no,
a mukbang.
You can just watch as I can. It's a mukbang performance. But yeah, this is monuments.co. Keep up with us.
Loads of cool merch.
We've all got our socials. Just
where do you? What's your Twitch for streaming?
We have twitch.tv/thisismonuments where we do performances and Q&As and etc. when we can. I've got twitch.tv/Andy Cizik where I do everything else. Also practice. We'll do practice as well. And yeah, I'd say just keep an eye out for exclusive content. Sometimes we'll even preview unreleased stuff. So good place to stay ahead.
Great. Well, thank you so much for hanging out, you guys.
Thank you,
taking
man.
the
This
time.
was really great. You're an awesome interviewer.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean that, man. You just if I can't stop talking, that means you did a great job. So
I try to shut my mouth and just listen. I don't always do it, but
that's the most Andy I've ever heard Andy speak.
That's not true. Get a couple whiskey cokes, and it's just a never-ending shit fest.
Well, you fielded all of my very difficult questions very well, and I
didn't answer one though, did I?
What'd you say?
No, we kind of got it. I think we got there.
It's all right. You know what? If you think of it, an answer to that question later, just leave it as a comment under this video. So if you're watching this,
perfect.
After the stream, check and see if they came up with
that. A little call to action.
A little call to action. Yeah.
Yes.
You're gonna have to remind me of this.
But like, the reason that I do this isn't just for all the folks at home watching. It's because I want to know how it is that it's done, how other people do it, because every time I do one of these, I learn some really cool new shit about different ways to go about it, different methods and structures and ideas, philosophies, the works. Sure. And if y'all at home want to hear the collected wisdom that I've learned on this podcast, head to howsongsaremade.podcast.com, because these are all audio episodes up there as well. Every week I have new and exciting guests such as these two handsome geniuses, And every week here on the stream, 11 a.m. PST on the Gear Gods YouTube channel. And then every Wednesday, I update new podcast episodes for regular old podcast, audio podcast distribution. You can find all the different places that you can find the pod. I mean, it's on every regular podcast distributor, but if you head over to the website, howsongsaremade.podcast.com, you can just click the link to any of the ones, Spotify or all of that. And there is now a dedicated Instagram page for How Songs Are Made. It's just at How Songs Are Made. I can't believe nobody yoinked it before I got there.
Don't you love that? That's great.
I couldn't believe it. I probably should have
miracle.
checked that before I bought the domain and everything. But
Yeah.
there it is. So and follow these boys on all their ye old socials and get
This is
ready for the
Monument?
drop. This is Monuments, because you guys didn't have at Monuments available.
Of course not.
Bummer.
Monuments is a very but yes, in Stasis, new album, April 15th. Please check it out.
Great, guys. Well, thanks again so much, and hope to talk to you real soon, and maybe
Thank you so
even
much,
see
Trey.
you on
It
the
was an
road.
honor. It was a pleasure. Oh, and guess what? Everything we said today, total lies.
It's all
okay?
a fucking lie.
I wrote it out. I was taking a hit with an 8-track, and that's how we wrote the album.
It was all a producer wrote the whole thing.
I
They're
lied.
a
about the
fucking
whole thing.
boy band construct.
Yeah, we got Pharrell Williams to. It was all.
It'd probably be better that way. All right, boys. I will catch you on the flippy
right.
floppy.
All right. Take care, sir.
Peace out.
Okay, stopped recording.
All right, guys. Well, this was an absolute hoot. These just get better and better. Man, every episode, as soon as I'm done, I'm like, that was the best episode. Excuse me, but hopefully next week I'm not gonna need these fucking cough drops. I'm dying over here. So this was such a hoot. Love getting a little bit of insight into how different people do this stuff. Once again, today's episode sponsored by myself and the 7-day Riff to Song Challenge. If you've done Riff Hard and you've learned how to get the riffs going, now you want to get it. Take those riffs, turn them into songs. One riff, one song in 1 week. Jump on the 7-day challenge. It's completely free. The link is in the description. And thank you guys all so much for watching. Be sure to jump on our Discord if you haven't already. And if you're interested in learning more about writing songs, you can check out my songwriting course at howsongsaremade.com. Boop, boop. And we'll see you next week. All right? Peace out.